Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi and welcome to MidWeek Magic, where I want you to grow your collection by winning 2 free rare or better ICRs each and every week. This week we are going to be popping off with one of my favorite formats, Historic Pauper. And sure, there's no financial incentive. We'll probably never see this as a full-time format on Arena, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy it when it comes around. So we're going to be talking today to bring you up to speed on some interesting changes to the format environment, as well as talk about a couple of decks, including one that's very budget accessible. But before we get into all of that, this whole MidWeek Magic thing has become a bit of a tradition here at the Stronghold, and it all started with our crack team of researchers discovering that we were the only YouTube channel making consistent, proactive, and timely MidWeek Magic coverage. And here we are years later, and it appears that we're still the only ones out there doing it for the budget community. So be sure to subscribe to the Planeswalker Stronghold so that we can be here for you every chance we get. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. So while Pauper is not full-time available on Arena and likely never will be due to a lack of financial incentive for Wizards of the Coast, we do see it 3-4 times a year on average. In fact, it's been since September of 2024 since we had Pauper available on the Arena client, and believe it or not, there has been some at least interesting developments in the format. Whether they'll be significant or not remains to be seen. First up, we've got Goblin Bushwhacker that is available as a special guest through the Foundation's limited packs. Don't let that rarity symbol fool you. It's not a mythic. It is available to craft as a common, and as such is expected to be Pauper playable. I have already published a deck on the Goblin Bushwhacker option for Pauper, and I plan on putting the link down in the description. One of the notable differences between Historic Pauper and the more traditional Pauper paper format is those cards that have been printed at common on Arena but have never been printed at that low rarity in paper, or vice versa. One of those new exceptional pieces is Dreadbore, the Rakdos sorcery speed, destroy target creature or planeswalker. And although we don't see a lot of planeswalkers within Pauper, certainly this sort of efficient removal is generally reserved for uncommons in today's premier releases. And although it does suffer a little bit from sorcery speed, this is definitely a good removal piece to have in Pauper. And mark my words, there are going to be people this week playing Rakdos because of this card. A similar disparity between the Historic Pauper and traditional Pauper formats can be found in a cycle of dual modal face lands that have recently been printed on Arena at common for the first time, although these are all reprints, so be sure to check your collection before you craft any of them. The white, the blue, and green ones are all awesome cards and well worth subbing in for a basic land. The black one is okay, and, well, the red one isn't. And last but certainly not least, Affinity is starting to become a thing for Historic Pauper. You see, the Inventive and Treasures Jumpstart packs from the Foundation's Direct to Eternal release added 2 of the original old school artifact lands, the Seat of Synod and Vault of Whispers. Those are the blue and black lands respectively. This is a big development for any sort of Affinity deck in Historic Pauper. It's starting to become a thing, but frankly, I don't think it's there just yet. And I think the smart budget money is going to hold off on building this. The Jumpstart was not really an efficient way to add cards, but of course you can just craft these if you have the resources. But I really think what we need is the red variant of this land, as well as like Galvanic Blast. That's where Affinity is really going to start to come into its own. But mark my words, once again, you will see people playing around with this and trying it. So don't be caught off guard by really fast and efficient Affinity decks. I do, however, think that the smart budget money is going to be playing Hare Apparent decks. Back when Foundations first released, we talked about Hare Apparent as a standard deck, as both Brawl and Standard Brawl, and today we are going to be finishing out the budget trifecta by building it as a very approachable, budget-friendly Hare Apparent Pauper deck. Alright, so as we begin to take a look at this deck, first off you can see it's very, very simple. And that is by design. I wanted to keep this more or less strictly Foundations to make it as accessible for new players as possible. There are a couple of exceptions here, but whenever possible I use cards that are available from your starter decks or cards that you would always want to invest in for this type of deck. The very first column is just life gain. We're running 4 copies of Hinterland Sanctifier, and to follow that up with a 3-drop, a pair of Dazzling Angels, both of which you gain life every time a creature enters play. This can get very, very ridiculous very quick with Hare Apparent. Of course, we're running, I landed on 25 copies of Hare Apparent. Please feel free to play around with that number as you see fit. We are also running another pair of 2-drops, this one Crusader of Audric. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. So Hare Apparent and the Rabbit tokens take you wide. Crusader of Audric gives you a go tall solution to go along with that. And then we've got some pump spells, Fleeting Flight to allow a creature to get not only +1/+1, but also gains flying and prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So the nice thing about the Fleeting Flight allows you to have a way of giving a token flying, for instance, until end of turn, and essentially chump blocking with no consequences because all combat damage is prevented for that turn. So you might stop a big flyer that was going to take a big chunk of your life total, and you really have no consequences. The last piece, of course, you'll see this from Bloomburrow, Rabbit Response. 4 mana instant, creatures get +2/+1 until end of turn, and if you control a rabbit, you get to scry 2. This is just kind of your game ender overrun effect at the common level. Obviously, the deck is only running 22 lands. Again, feel like you should play with that number according to how you end up building this based on your collection. But I wanted to give a very bare bones accessible option available. There are a lot of different ways to go with this. Of course, even in commons, you can run various team pump effects like Rabbit Response. There's a bunch of different things out there that will do it. There are various other cards that you can pick up to accentuate the life gain. The nice thing about Pauper is you're not going to see as many board wipes. So Hare Apparent is not quite as fragile as it can be in some other formats. If you find yourself in a position to start making some strategic investments in your Eternal collection, I highly recommend switching out your pump effects for 4 copies of Soul Warden. This just gives you another life gain ability that triggers not only when you create creatures, but also when your opponent does. Overall, this is going to give you a much higher inevitability in a format that is not overburdened by board wipes. Similarly, you can also switch out your 3-drops for Celestial Unicorn. This will give you a very different take on the go tall aspect and be much more life-centric. This is going to force your opponents to make difficult choices with their spot removal, whether they should be targeting your Soul Wardens, your ginormous Celestial Unicorns, or the Hare Apparents that are kind of the root of the whole thing. Every time we force them to make a choice, we give them the opportunity to make a mistake. And hey, just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that the deck list that we discussed in this video is going to have a link down in the doobly-doo to take you over to Aetherhub, along with a link to any other alternative lists that you might wish to consider. He only asks that you give it a little thumbs up when you're over there checking out the deck list. And I plan on live playing this event on Wednesday at 11 a.m. over on my Twitch channel, so definitely stop in and check it out. Because the Stronghold is so much more than just a YouTube channel, and you can find links to all of our other social media outlets in our profile. Because at the end of the day, we're all budget players. And as a community, we're stronger together. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all those things to show a little love. It's appreciated more than you know.